Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Richard Skipper celebrates the best in entertainment. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. This is the show in which I celebrate art, artist, life, whatever you can find to celebrate, we celebrate. And today, I am very excited because I am going to be celebrating a man who is never wrong about anything. Michael Angelo Costa, I am telling you, I have had the most fun reading this book, Never Be Wrong Again. First of all, welcome today. Today is World Gratitude Day. I am grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that you've written this book because it really is an incredible book. I want to celebrate your accomplishments, what you've done. But before we delve into that, there are a few things that I want to dissect for a moment. Let's put things in perspective with where we are. We are still in the middle of a pandemic. Yes. And I want to ask, how are you doing really?
I'm personally doing fine. I'm healthy. I'm vaccinated. I still take precautions, not as religious as I once was, but I still think about it. And from a business perspective, it actually changed my time.
I want to say there is a problem with your microphone.
There is.
You are coming through very muddled.
So I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yes.
Should I pull out the Yeti and just go to the...
Why don't you pull out that and see what happens?
Okay.
Now I can't hear you at all. So change the speaker there, and we'll see if this is going to work. We may have to start the show again. So we'll see if that helps. You are muted. Let me unmute, see if I can unmute your mic here.
There we go.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
These things happen. Okay. So again, asking you, how are you doing really?
Health-wise, I'm fine. No one in my family has suffered, including my 94-year-old mom. We're all vaccinated, taking some precautions, not quite as much as we did before, but still mindful of it. From a business perspective, it impacted me a lot. I got most of my income from speaking at corporate gigs. I had 3 big ones lined up, and they all got canceled. But what I did was, instead of saying, well, that's really unfortunate, what I did was saying, what can I do now? So I'm in the process of launching an online course, really geared towards individuals and the problems they have and the decisions they make. You said I'm never wrong. Of course, my wife would say that's not true. But let me define what wrong is. Wrong is when you could have gotten what you wanted. If you say, had I thought about it this way, I could have gotten what I wanted. There's no guarantee you'll get the outcome you want. The chances will be greatly increased, and you'll never have to regret doing what you did because you made the best decision you could have made based on the facts you knew at that time. And that's why you're not wrong. And so the title's a little misleading, but not really. I think it's the appropriate title, and it's a catchy title. So
well, yeah, I'm reminded of the film "It's a Wonderful Life,"
Yeah.
We all make choices and decisions
Right.
every single day. Some of the decisions that we make are very calculated decisions.
Right.
And then there are decisions that we make that are just habits that we make in our life.
Right.
And I also, you use an example in your book of, for example, a gambler sitting at the roulette table.
Yeah.
The gambler sits down. The gambler decides that he's going to decide to go to the roulette table. Let's say a gambler makes a decision to bet on a certain number, and the number comes in the big winner. But on the off chance or the on chance that the number is the wrong number or the right number, depending on who's sitting at that table,
Right.
Did he make the right decision or did someone else make the right decision?
Well, I think in that case, which I actually have in the book, when someone says they're going to put all their life savings in that number, you, as a human being, you say, I hope it hits. But in the back of your mind, you're going, this is crazy. This is the chance are overwhelming is going to lose. And so, for example, let's say someone to be my financial analyst, they want to be my wealth advisor. And this year they made me 100%. And they actually said, I just threw a dart at the board and I went with it. Well, I'll take my 100% return. I'm going to find a new advisor. I want someone who says, I got that, your returns, because I have a programmatic way of getting there. And, when I ask people, or I tell people decisions are really important, they all go, oh yeah, they are. No, let me make it clear. Everything that's got you where you are now in life and everything that will get you to where you want to be to the day you leave this planet is only two things: luck and the decisions you make. Mm-hmm. That's it. So the way we're born, what we look like, hair color, eye color, skin color, religion, area of the country, gender, anything else, we were born to one parent or two parents. That's all luck. We have nothing to do with it. And along the way, you're influenced by your parents and others around you, mostly good, but maybe for some people it's not so good. But it's really the choices you make. By the way, your name's not Richard Skipper, I've decided. It's Jason Bourne, because I tried to find out about you on the internet and I couldn't, except for your bio. Mm-hmm. So I listened to some of your shows. So I know that you left South Carolina at 18 and came to New York. So that was the decision you made, which is the right decision for you. But that probably changed the trajectory of after 18, what you did. So that's an important one. I would love to have this course, not this exact course in this style, a course like this, taught in junior high and high school. The things that we do every day are deal with people, communicate, and make decisions. And those really aren't taught, except for communication, English writing. Those aren't taught. Yeah, when you go to kindergarten, there's no biting, kicking, and scratching. And 10 years later, they're making fun of you because you have acne or you don't look right or whatever it is. So we need to do that. And I want people to make the right choices for themselves. When they're 12 and 18 and all those things, make them knowingly, and they'll get the life they want. They won't make bad life choices that may really impact them adversely later on. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've given up in trying to influence anybody that's sitting in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I don't care what part they're from.
Exactly. I've been thinking a lot, reading the book about where we are right now in line with the past year and a half of our lives, whether you decide to be vaccinated or not, whether you decide to wear a mask or not. These decisions that we are making daily, hour by hour, minute by minute, we are not responsible for what other people are doing. Mm-hmm. But we are responsible for how we respond to those things. And I think that is, and this is what I'm telling people all the time, you're not responsible. I was talking to a friend the other day. She was in a hotel in Pennsylvania. She went to Pennsylvania to see her grandchildren. They decided to stay in a hotel rather than staying with their grandchildren and the family. Right. They were not happy at the hotel because the hotel, she may be watching now, the hotel, they were not wearing masks. She didn't feel that they were following the protocol. Right. She wrote a scathing review on the website for the hotel. She went down the line and I said, Leslie, no one forced you to stay there. Number one, these were choices that you made you are only responsible for how you responded to this?
Well, she made a key assumption there, which maybe was a good assumption early on, was that this place is following some kind of protocols.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get there and that assumption is not valid, now you're just that assumption. It's just not valid. There's nothing you can do about it. And what do I do now? And that's a decision. So.
Well, I want to go back. I always like to go back to the 5-year-old self. So I want to go back to your 5-year-old self.
Okay.
What your life was like as a young boy. That to me is a pure self. Before school starts, before peer pressure starts being layered upon you, before you start being told who you should be, not only by your friends, but by your teachers, who you should be or who you should not be. What were you like as a 5-year-old? And tell us a little bit about what your home life was like.
Okay, so I'm a little bit older than you. So when I was 5 years old, we didn't have a TV set yet. We didn't, and we got one. And I think there's a couple of shows on. So the advantage that I had as a young kid, my parents pushed reading and things, and I thought everybody just reads, and we didn't have the distractions. I think raising children today is much, much harder. Before, you went out and played with your friends, you came in, you read something, and then later on maybe you watched TV. But it was a really warm, loving environment, very supportive. Which I think is needed for every child, because the world will take its toll on you later on. I'm a big believer in having children just be children for as long as they can. That's all. Yeah. So it was very positive, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And brothers and sisters?
I have an older sister and a younger brother, and they're both really nice. They're far nicer than I am. They're really nice people. I'm the rambunctious middle child.
And when was the first time in your life that you were aware that a decision that you were going to make in your life was going to make a major impact on your life moving forward?
There's two things. It was my view of education. I was really disappointed. I went to a really good school, but I was really disappointed in what the university had to offer. I thought it'd be much more challenging. And so I had to find my own way of education. I mean, I got that degree and I got other graduate degrees, but I was a little disappointed in that. But obviously the one that is the decision to marry my wife, or asked her to marry me. And the truth is, while it all worked out fabulously well, in retrospect, we got lucky. I mean, I have a chapter in the book. The book is set into 3 parts. One, the common pitfalls you make. Then I tell you how to make a decision. And then I go from playing the lottery, deal or no deal, getting married or not. And quite frankly, of all the questions I get on emails from people, the vast majority, I'm saying 80%, are about marriage and divorce. People, I originally thought my avatar would be someone like me, a business person, finance background. Those people don't think they do need decision-making help, but they don't think they do. When it comes to personal lives, everybody goes, tell me what to do. Now, I don't tell people what to do. I don't tell them what they should be attracted to and who and what personality types. I say, this is the thought process you should have in analyzing whether you should marry that person or not. And if you're not certain, you have your answer. When I say certain, I mean 100% on a big bet, and marriage is a big bet. For most people, it's a big financial bet too. Mm-hmm. You've got to be 80, 85 to 90% sure this is the right match for you. It can't just be 51%. If it's, I don't care where you go to lunch, but the bigger impact to you, the more certain you have to be. So when marriage is a big M&A deal in the corporate arena, I can't tell you how many times I look at that M&A deal and I could tell you before it happens, it's a bad deal. It's just so obvious. And yet no one gets fired. So that's my pet peeve on business.
Now, when it comes to your career, I mean, you've had various careers. Mm-hmm. Did you know early on what it was that you wanted to do initially with your life? Or were you waffling with different ideas with what you wanted to do with your life? And how did you decide what your first steps were going to be? Okay.
So I was pushed education, and I thought I'd be a doctor. But you want to go into pre-med and you're 18 years old. I was 17 and change. You're going to be disciplined from day one. And I decided I don't really want to be a doctor that bad, at least not at this point in my life. I probably should have taken a gap year or two and come back a little more mature, but I didn't. So I went through the checklist of, my thing. My dad was an engineer. So you like a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or something else. I picked by default lawyer. And then I went to law school, did well, and people come out. I had an accounting background too at the time. They said, you should do tax law. So I'm still taking information from my peers who don't know any more about life than I do. I went to tax law. So I started a tax law, and I went from there to investment banking. And now from that to this. Yeah.
And when did you're a great writer. I want to applaud you for that. But when did the writing come into place? Were you always a writer? Did you keep journals? When did the thought processes of putting this into a book form begin for you?
Well, it's interesting, Richard. My life was so busy, I didn't have time to write. In fact, I go through what drove me to this in the book. But what got me, I came back, there's a big Borders bookstore, I'm dating myself, in Mount Kisco, New York. I came back to Borders bookstore looking to buy a book about decision-making, to read it. I had no intention of writing it. And then I did all this research over really 10 years in academic journals, interviewing people. And I came up with this 4-factor formula, which worked. Now, I took a risk because I didn't know there would be an answer at all. I just thought decision-making was either you're good at it, you're not good at it, you're smarter, you're better at it than not smart. But I couldn't explain how I went about making decisions. You would ask me 20 years ago how I make decisions, I'd mumble some things like pro and con list, but my real answer would be, well, I'm just Mike Costa, and I think I'm a smart guy, so and I'm not in jail, and don't have lung cancer from smoking, and I've accumulated some wealth, so by definition, it proves it. And the answer is that's wrong. And now I know that. Yeah.
Now, are you a list maker? Are you a to-do list maker? Do you actually weigh out the pros and cons with what you do?
No, I believe in my book. I really believe in it. And so I wrote the book, going back to the writing thing, just I felt I had to. I put too much work into this thing. What I didn't think about ahead of time, which someone told me, is marketing. Okay, I didn't think about marketing. I said, I'm going to get a good product. And then I realized near the end, I had to work on marketing. So I did that. I drove it through Amazon. Okay, I drove it through Amazon. It was the #1 bestseller on Amazon for a few weeks in the Canada, US, and Australia, #2 in the UK, because the Brits are always a little picky. And that's what I did. But I wish I thought about that first, or along that way. I don't believe in pros and cons. I believe that's a memory pad. If you're running, or if something comes to you, or you're sitting at your desk, write it down. Don't forget it. But a pros and cons list is not any analysis. It's taking your initial thoughts, putting them down on paper so you don't forget them. But that's not a plan. And when I first wrote this book and met with an editor, I got the editor because it was referred to me by a very well-known person. I'm not going to say their name, but you would know. And I said, what do? You need an editor. And they recommended me an editor, and she is outstanding. But in terms of prejudice, let's say we're casting in Hollywood for a role. You go, I want someone to fit this role. What does a book editor look like? I don't know. But I don't know what my image, but I was thinking of something that was bookish, which is real. This woman is drop dead gorgeous. And I would have counted her looks against her, assuming she wasn't that smart as an editor because she was too good looking. And so that's right. That's an honest answer. And I'm glad that someone recommended her to me because she's been great. So these kind of small prejudices in a very evil way creep into our life.
Well, I have to ask you, where did your decision-making process come into this?
Well, this was easy. I was relying on this famous person, and no one wants to annoy this famous person. So this person that is being recommended is going to do a great job. He or she's going to go out of the way to do a great job because they don't want that pipeline to be cut off. And so that was my decision process. And also, I have no skills for picking a book editor. So I'm relying on someone that knows the field, knows the industry, and can spot talent. Yeah.
So I know that you spent 10 years researching and doing all the work, but I want to know a little bit about your process. in terms of how you worked, in terms of the research, the interviews that you did, putting it all together, compiling it. When did you know that it was ready, if for lack of a better term, to give birth to this? Was this a decision that you made? Was this a decision that your editor made? Or was this a decision that you both made together?
Yeah, I think probably the best thing, even before, remember this research was done before Daniel Kahneman came out with his book in, I think, 2007 or whatever, and Richard Taylor's story. So this was something I really got more value by interviewing C-suite executives. I said, let me observe. I want to learn from you. I didn't tell them I was kind of interviewing them. Let me learn from you. How do you make decisions? And they're really talented people, wouldn't follow their own process from time to time. And I remember when I went to my editor the first time, she goes, well, what kind of book is this? I go, what do you mean? Is it in the business section? Is it in the psychology section? I said, I don't know. She read through it and goes, it's a how-to book. I go, what's a how-to book? And she made the analogy to a cookbook. And I was very offended. I spent years speaking to people and going to academic journals, but I'm proud to say it's a how-to book. It's a how to make decisions. I don't care if it's a business decision, it's a personal life decision, decisions, and this takes you through that task. So I had decided to write something knowing I'm not a trained writer. In fact, I always say this to her today. So I had about 400 or 450 pages written. When she was done, I was down to 185 pages and I had to write more. It was painful to let go of that effort, but she was right every time. I was too caught up in making some obscure point that no one could care about. And you had to keep the reader in mind, are you actually going to help them make better decisions? And she was right.
What is the biggest impact that the book has made on you personally, beyond obviously the changes that this has made in your life as far as becoming a speaker, ending up on the bestseller list? What are the biggest changes that have surprised you about you as a person?
How much, well, I won't turn down a corporate gig because they have budgets. I'm really, really excited about helping the individuals. I really mean that. I mean, I don't want to undercut myself in negotiations, but I would do most of this for free. I mean, my goal is you dream what you want to have, right? Dream, decide, act, succeed. The hardest thing for a younger person to do, 25, 30, 35, is write down what you want and be specific. They go, I want to be happier, healthier, wealthier. I go, no. If I give you a $5 bill and say, you don't have to pay me back, it's a gift, you're $5 wealthier. You go, well, that's not what I had in mind. It takes them the longest time to write it out and say, you don't have to show me. Write out in 5 years where you're living, what kind of house, what kind of car, what area of the country, what do you do? Be specific. I mean, and now I don't care how much money you say you want to make in 5 years. Just be not winning the lottery, something you have to work for, you're either competent at or you're willing to be competent at. So for example, if someone said to me tomorrow, Mike, you should be an actor in Hollywood. Well, I don't have movie star good looks. I'm not a good actor, and I have no desire to learn how to be an actor. So we can cross that off the list. But if you say, I always wanted to be in a rock band and you had some musical background growing up, that you were really good at something and you want to hone those skills, okay, that's something you want to do it. This is not about telling you what you want. This is about empowering you to get what you want. So I always say it's the biggest thing in decision-making, people put off decisions. Why? They're afraid of being wrong. Well, if someone told you how to do it, you wouldn't just put it off anymore. I'm not saying you would do it tomorrow and snap judgment, but you wouldn't say 6 months later, I'm still lost, or a year later.
There are two areas that I want to talk about regarding that. One is making a decision and then changing your mind. Your thoughts on that, because it's okay to change your mind also once you make a decision. Sure. If you can elaborate on that for a moment. Sure.
So first of all, you may have a gut reaction that you want to do something. And then you go through the decision process, you go, there's more risk here than I'm willing to take. I'm not going to do what I originally wanted to do. Okay. But let's say you do decide to do something. And as time goes on, facts change. You may decide to that you wanted to be in the gig economy. And then pandemic happened and your consulting job, waiter or waitress job has gone down and you're living hand to mouth. And you're going to say, you know something? I don't like corporate America, but I like that consistent cash flow. I'm going to change my view because I need to survive. It doesn't mean that your first assumption is wrong. It just means things happened and you had to go down a different path if it's not your preferred path. So I'm okay with that. As long as you learn about you, you say, where am I in Maslow's theory of the hierarchy of needs? If I have no money and I'm back in my rent and the eviction moratorium is going to end someday, I never want to be there again. I'll do something not morally reprehensible, but I normally wouldn't like doing. I'm willing to do that than have the feeling I have now. That is perfectly great.
And then there are some decisions that are not necessarily made at the right time with the right judgment. If you're making a decision, for example, when you are bone dead tired and not really thinking about what you're doing, that's not necessarily the right decision to make at that time either.
No, they say, in fact, I think in the book I put out the famous Israeli study, and they found it was the time they were last nourished. And I always remember that. Anytime that you're thinking burns off a lot of calories, not to the extent that you're going to shed pounds, but if you come out of a standardized test or something like that, you're worn out from the stress, but also thinking that you're not designed. If there's anything I want people to remember from this thing, technology has changed greatly in 150 or thousands of years. We haven't. We are biologically designed. Our software program we come with is a great decision-making tool 50,000 years ago. When the first thing you had to think about, Richard, are you and I going to talk about whether the lion is in the bush there? No, it's fight or flight. That person looks different from our tribe. What do we think about that? It's a safety issue. That's what we're designed to do. And unfortunately, you see it kick in many times today. I mean, road rage is a fight or flight thing. And it's designed to shut your computer down, your brain. So my book, it's a book, but I'm trying to get people's mind. It's a software upgrade for decision-making to this century. That's what it is. Understand your caveman mentality, and that's cool. But most things we do today have nothing to do with where that system was designed. So that's really it.
That's a very interesting point that you're bringing up. I look at the whole gun situation that's going on right now.
Yeah.
The biggest issue right now for me with guns is that people are using guns as a point of resolution. And it's a snap judgment. And young kids are shooting each other and not thinking of the consequences of what they're doing to each other. And it's changing people's lives. I was saying to Dan the other night, at 60 years of age, thank God, I don't have any bullet holes in my body. And I'm thinking of all these children that, are wounded now because of these poor decisions that children are making. Not adults, children are making these decisions. And they're not thinking through with these decisions. And it's not just, that situation, but the internet, people pushing a button, not thinking about what they've said, cancel culture, all these things are having these repercussions throughout our entire culture right now.
I couldn't agree more. I often tell people, I stay away from politics and political decisions from any party because I know it's a hot button. I know it's a hot button. In fact, based on my research, what I've done, I've seen there are billions of dollars being spent each year for people to push my button and your button. It's because they want you to act on something. Now, am I immune to it? No. Pretty close to it now because I'm so painfully aware of it. So if I hear something that resonates with me, I know exactly what station I was watching. I know exactly what newspaper I was reading, whatever it was. And I know that person didn't just wing it. They thought about it and they tried to push my button. So even though I do like what they said, I'm aware where I got it because the hardest thing to find today are facts. And in terms of responding on the internet, when's the last time someone posted something polarizing against the opposite person? That person said, "Oh, I have an epiphany. You're right." No one ever changed their mind based on a Facebook post. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead, Richard.
No. Keep going, because that's exactly what I was getting at. And it's very interesting that social media is polarizing us in a way that, you're talking about how we're not really programmed for all of this.
No, matter of fact, I met with one of my interview process. I met with the head, a major university that has a group focusing on decision-making and psychology. And he was a very nice fellow. And he said, "Look, all decisions are emotional." I said, "Well, not all." He goes, "Okay, not all, but most are." and think about it. We have to be honest with ourselves. Maybe you're an expert at something. Like at one point, I was an expert in a certain area of the tax law, and you're an expert in something. You can only be expert in maybe two things. Like, let's say growing up, I was a sports person. I played that sport. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate the nuances. And now I'm an expert in tax law. That's it. We have to be honest. Our area of expertise is pretty narrow. That's what we get paid for. I don't go to my orthopedic to have my teeth fixed. I go to my orthopedic guy. I don't go to my orthopedic guy if I have a heart problem. And so where I found that people who are not professionals make the biggest mistakes are investing and life choices like relationships. Mm-hmm. And those are pretty big.
I want to ask you, in terms of decision making, was there one particular decision that you made in your life that really catapulted you in a way that you never expected it would, that really changed the way that you look at the way that you make decisions?
Well, again, I got lucky on two major points. I got luck. I married the right person, and it's worked out, but we were both young and, didn't really think it was a lust as opposed to a more thoughtful process. And then going to law school really changed my life. That was it. But again, I knew I wanted a graduate education. I kind of got into law because it was not pre-med, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So, and I was always some kind of in my head thought, I had to do a more traditional thing, old school way, work hard, outwork the person, make more money, something like that. I came from no money, so if I wanted to have kids, I need more money because let's face it, one of the example, I don't use the example in the book, but I talk about framing. If I go to someone that's 30 years old and go, how many really expensive, energy depleting, non-revenue producing units would you like to acquire in the next 5 years? And I say it again. How many really expensive, energy-depleting, non-revenue producing units would you like to acquire in the next 5 years? They go, none. Okay, let me reframe it. How many kids would you like to have? And so I'm glad I have two great kids. But when you sign up for kids, you're going to have a rock solid marriage because it's going to be stress points. Not every kid every day is perfect, and parents aren't perfect. So I think doing this research changed the way I view all the decisions I make. Now, for most years, so the years I tracked it up until now, because I don't spend any time looking at my own investments, I beat 98% of the hedge funds year after year, all the time. And all I did was look at my decision. I didn't read one more newsletter, any more research. I just looked at my decision. Need two decisions to make money. Decision to buy at the right time at the right price, and decision to sell at the right price. So people, they look at their stock portfolio. Oh, I made $10,000 today. I said, you sold something? They go, no. Then you didn't make anything. You feel better about it, but you didn't make anything. So just going through that process made me more disciplined. Yeah.
Well, also, writing a book is also, for the most part, it's a very solitary process.
Yes.
And having a wife, where were your kids in terms of age as you were writing this, and how were you able to compartmentalize your life? You're writing, you're also living your life in the other areas that you're living. How were you able to make it all work for yourself?
Well, first, my kids were in college, so it wasn't like I was ignoring them, and probably didn't want to be around me anyway at that point. And my wife's been very supportive all the time. My wife thinks that what I'm doing, she knows it takes a lot of work. I'm not out there playing poker with my friends at night and ignoring her. I'm doing something I believe in and she believes in. So that's really important. And I think, look, if you said birthing the book, I think you said before.
That's right.
That's a good analogy, because if you want to write a decent book, regardless of what your writing skills are, it takes a lot of work. In fact, well, I would have gone through it. I'm glad I did it. But if I had known at the time I was doing this research what it would take to write this book, I don't know if I would have done it. I mean, it takes a lot of time to do this if you want to do it the right way. But I think I can make an impact. If I could help 5 people on the planet get the life they want and they wouldn't have had without meeting me, if I don't make a nickel, I'm happy. I really am. I really believe that.
And is there a particular moment for yourself when you felt that you had made it as far as this work is concerned? Or is that something that you still feel that you are working towards?
I'm working towards it because, in marketing, most of my marketing now is, well, for speaking, it's kind of inbound and outbound, but it's mostly outbound. I mean, I have to go back. What you want is, there's a problem. Let's call Mike Costa so he can come and teach us how to make this. And remember, I don't tell you the result.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you the software program for you to make the choice. I may, if I'm familiar with the topic, suggest some questions you want to ask yourself, come up with your own answer. But yeah, it's not inbound, right? So look, let's go, Richard. You're a great interviewer. You're gifted at it. You really are. You always ask about the other person, etc. The product is you and the people you interview with. The product is really Richard Skipper. So you would love to have an audience that's just tenfold what it is now, for whatever reason. Okay, whether it's just you want to get the message out of gratitude, or you want to make money. And there's nothing wrong with doing good things and getting paid for it too. Mm-hmm. But there's that goal. So and then I would say, well, why do you want that goal? What's the driving force? Is it money, and which is not wrong, or is it just getting them all known? So there's even more famous people coming and asking you for an interview on your show, mm-hmm. versus some of those happening, but not all of them happen that way. And so I'm in the same boat, if you will. I have access to corporate gigs because I have the corporate background, so I kind of fit in. I like the money, but it doesn't really get my juices going at all. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Individuals, it does. So I'd like to broaden my sphere of influence, even if it had to be for free.
And with all of this going on, is this something that you're constantly thinking about, or is this something that you're able to shut off from time to time? Are you constantly thinking about the decision-making process with every decision that you're making?
I do. I for this reason, I don't want to embarrass myself. I mean, like the first thing is physician, heal thyself. I don't want to be like the shoeless person of the shoemaker. So let me apply. It's not that complicated, but I apply it to myself. Like, for example, if I have a goal in 2 or 3 or 4 years, I do backwardization. Okay, what do I have to do by what date to hit that goal? That's exactly what's in the book. And I made a mistake. I thought that my avatar, there's an old saying in marketing, if you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to nobody. So I thought the avatar would be me, a male business person, because there's more males in business than not. And it turns out my audience right now is that are women over 50. I wouldn't have guessed that in 100 years.
And why is that?
I don't know. First of all, women, and these are factual statements, women are more likely to seek self-help and improvement than men. And they have, at 50, you have more money than to buy a course or something than you did when you were 17 or 25, even though you may have needed it more when you're 25. And a lot of them are going through a change. It could be a divorce, or the kids have left the nest. They're old. You may say they're eligible for ARP, but they have a lot of years left. and they want to figure out what to do. So the difference between myself and others, and I applaud others, I want you to be excited about your life, unleash the power. But once you get that going, you got to know what to do. I mean, you can say, I walked over coals, I'm really pumped up. You run out in the street and you roll. What do you do? Where do you go? You make a left turn or a right turn. So you got to figure out what you want and then say, okay, now I know what I want. What steps do I take to get there? And of course, if you're not going to act on the decision you make, well, then it's just academic and nothing happens.
And is there a follow-up book that you're going to be working on for this?
Everybody says that, but I'm still gun shy because at the first book. And I think what I want to do is, I was fortunate to meet, it's a really nice fellow, by the way, Jack Canfield, really nice fellow. He was.
By the way, great interview. I did go in and watch that interview.
Yeah. Thank you. And he is a nice guy. It's two things. One thing he said to me, and it's so true. And he sold a lot of books. The Chicken Soup of the Soul series, look, everything. Mm-hmm. But what he did was a Chicken Soup of the Soul for teenagers, a Chicken Soup of the Soul for this person. So I probably will write maybe a few books, but geared towards different audiences. Maybe it's one's different ways. But he did say one thing: you make more money explaining your book than selling your book. So now my book, I make money off the book, mm-hmm. but not to be independently wealthy. And I'm fortunate enough that I worked hard in my life, so I don't need that money. But it's right. I mean, if I get one speaking gig at one corporation, I'd have to sell a truckload or 2 truckloads of books to get that money. What the book I view as now is a credentialization. I want people to read it, that I'm one of the guys that's an expert in this area. So yes, I'm thinking of future books, but we'll have to see what happens.
Now, 10 years in research, I mean, but and was it also 10 years of writing the book as well? Or
no. First of all, I could have written the book quicker if I knew what I was doing. If I had hired an editor early on, I could have gotten the book out.
Once again, the process. When in the process did the editor come on board?
When I had decided I wanted to write a book, I thought that, and not to sound self-important, I thought the message was that important, and I spent so much time doing it that if I just never did it, it's as if I never did anything. I can't help anybody, including myself, if I didn't write the book. So became.
Michael, excuse me for interrupting, but the truth of the matter is that a lot of people have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And a lot of ideas should be in book form, such as this, but very few people make that effort to make it happen or make the decision to make it happen. You did. What was that defining moment for you that you said, I am going to write a book?
Okay, so I'd done all the research and stuff, which took a lot of time. And then I saw the end. My desired time in the corporate area was coming to a close. I was able to not do it anymore. And therefore, I knew I'd have time in my hands. So if I was in a corporate arena, you don't work. People go, I don't want a 9-to-5 job. I've never had a 9-to-5 job. It's always a lot more work than that. They don't pay you real money to work small hours. So that decision to get the book out meant I wasn't going to look for I was going to leave the corporate area. I wasn't going to look for another corporate job. I'm not saying I would have gotten one. I didn't even look. And that's what maybe I could focus my attention on getting the book out. A lot of work, as you know.
No, it's a lot.
You wrote a lot of blogs. I think you had like 15 or 1,600 or something.
Yes.
Right. That's
I wrote, well, when I was writing the blog, I would do the interview, and I would transcribe the blog in their words, exactly as they said it. So it was their story, and I would not editorialize. It was their story as they told it. So it was. It was a full-time job. This is a full-time job because, if you could see my bookshelves of Amazon loves me because books are arriving here daily, with all the research and everything that I put into this.
No,
but I love what I do, and it's a passion, so it's worth it. But what do you have a daily routine now? Of course, COVID withstanding,
Yeah.
in terms of how you are getting your message out to people now. And how can people find you either through the corporate world, or I know you do individual work as well?
Yeah. So a couple things there. And I, by the way, people don't appreciate you read the books. I've been interviewing people, like I can tell they didn't crack it. I don't mean you have to read it all. You didn't read anything. And it takes a lot of work, and I applaud you for that. And because after a while, you want Amazon to slow down for a couple of weeks so you can catch up with your life. I think you got to keep right now, I'm actually keeping contact with people through emails. Like I said, they're on the emails. How about 7,000 people on the email list? And of course, I want to grow. You got to write them. I don't charge anybody for that stuff. It's just every week, you got to write something, goes out there. And then every day, I work on something for the course. The course is designed for, it's not just me in the video or audio. It comes with a workbook, which kind of, works you through the course. So I want it to be of value to you. I want people to say, yeah, I paid money for that course. That was really worth it. And they tell their friends. Now, whether they tell their friends or not, I can't control. The quality of the course, I can control. And I want to do that. So every day I do something.
And I want to talk a little bit about the people who have influenced you, the mentors along the way. I really want to applaud those teachers who shaped the way for you, who helped you in terms of your decision-making along the way.
Yeah. I would say right through all of high school, I had great teachers. I mean, I can't think of one bad teacher.
Same here.
At all. College, different story. Graduate schools, different story. I mean, there's some great ones. There's one professor in law school that was just the most awesome, smart guy I've ever met. He's just really, really powerful mentally. Those are important. But I think, of course, my parents, I got my work ethic from my dad, and he never said anything about work ethic. He was raised in orphanages and foster homes.
God bless him.
I'll start crying. So I'm going to go there. He was very good, a very hard worker, self-made guy. Never saw him lose his cool at all. But, people say, like, next month, I'll be 68. And I don't know how long I'm going to live, but I don't plan on ever retiring. I mean, I'll just keep doing these things until I can't. So the good news is I'm not that good a golfer. So I'm not tempted to play a lot of golf because I play with my friends, but it's just not my game. I go after what it is, a piece of enjoyment. But those are the people that shape me, my personality. And I think most important thing is not shape your decision-making, because I couldn't have explained it in the year 2000. I could not have explained my decision-making plan. I couldn't have done it. I didn't have one. But they teach you how to think, or they really empower you to keep reading, keep educating, and keep thinking. So my view is when people they're about to retire, I'm going to retire. What are you going to do? I'm going to do nothing. And I say to them, I don't care if you play golf every day, you go walking in the woods every day, but you got to have a plan to do something. Otherwise, you're just hanging out, hoping not to die. And if you can I'm a work in progress as a person. I try to get better every day. I try to get a little wiser every day. I try to think about things every day. I'm not saying I'm getting there. I'm trying to. And I think that's what people should do from the early.
My goal is to be 1% better today than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
That's my daily mantra. I want to ask you, and I'm all about celebrating. So I don't want you to give away a name or a situation that would give away this person with what I'm about to ask you.
Okay.
But I want to ask you if you can think of a time in your life of a difficult person or a situation that was a major obstacle in your life that was like almost soul crushing, that you had that put up a wall against you, and what it was that got you past that wall. In terms of your determination, your grit, your decision-making that got you past that, and what it was, whether it be faith or what it was that got you to the other side of that wall.
Well, I worked for one of the best human beings ever when I first got into business. I mean, really, if Hollywood wrote the script, they'd say, "Oh, come on, no one's that good," and he was that good. Years later, he had left, and I was working for people that were awful, just awful people. I toughed it out because I have a wife and kids and whatever, and just got to a point. I said, I just can't do this anymore, and I quit. What I should have done is probably quit 2 years before. And so I held on too long. Yeah, that was a decision-making mistake because I was hoping they would change, and people can change, but mostly they don't. So when I tell people, going back to marriage, you look at your potential spouse and you see their strengths and weaknesses. You go, oh, they only have one flaw. They have a wicked temper. Okay, well, don't assume they're going to be an opioid addict if they're not now, but don't assume they're going to change. You got to look at the cards you're dealing with, the facts that they are, and decide, even with the temper, I'll take that person on, or no, they're not going to change. They're not going to change. You got to make a decision there. I was hoping someone's behavior would change, and it was pretty clear to me that they weren't, but I probably would have jumped. I was the frog in the pot. The old story. You put a frog, hopefully you know what it is. You put a frog in a pot of boiling water, he jumps out. But if you're in the pot and you keep making it warmer and warmer and warmer, they get used to it, and next thing they boil to death.
I know.
A lot of this, I was that frog at that moment, and a lot of people are like that. They tolerate things too much, whether it's a career or whether it's a relationship. At some point, it becomes too long. I'm not saying first sign of bad behavior, you jump ship and run, or you quit the first bad day you have at work, because then you'd never have a job. But if you're saying this is not likely to change, then the only thing, if the situation is not going to change, you have to change the situation.
Amen. Amen. And because my show is Richard Skipper Celebrates, what are you currently celebrating?
That everybody's happy and healthy. And we have a bunch of friends this year that are turning 65. And I said, let you guys pick something to do. I'm along for the ride because, it's a major area, Social Security, it's Medicare, whatever it is. And it's a time in your life and you celebrate. So we're going to go on some trip someplace doing something in California, but COVID, allowable. So
have you picked a location yet, or you are still working on it?
I think it's going to be in Northern California, like the Carmel Valley area, which I think is just really
one of my favorite places on the planet.
I mean, it's just beautiful. It's physically beautiful. And if people haven't been out there, you should visit. Even just going to walk on the beach or walk down the path and see the seals on the beach and the whale and out just a few hundred yards there. It's really beautiful. So that's a celebration. And my daughter got married.
Congratulations.
And they said, what's the best part of the wedding? I said, she picked a great guy.
That's great. That's
good
great.
match with each other. And their vows were kind of cool with each other. So that's all celebrations. Yeah.
Okay, this is my little homage to Inside the Actors Studio and James Lipton, as he used to end his show. So these are just some fun questions that I pulled together. What habit would you most like to give up?
I probably drink more than I should. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a problem drinker, but you got to make it. I have actually, one of my goals, I wrote goals for myself for the year. I put personality wise, habits like this, and I put down, I limit myself to, during the week, I'll have 4 days I'll have a glass of wine, but no cocktails. And then maybe on Saturday night I'll have a cocktail. But if I didn't do that, I just reflect, well, it's the end of the day, let's have a cocktail. And that's okay. But all lifestyle choices goes to timing of decisions. All lifestyle choices don't have a deadline. There's no national get married or divorce day. There's no national, you go to the gym day. There's no national stop smoking day or limit your drinking day. So you have to set that for yourself. And that's a good example of me applying my own rules to myself. That's really it. But now I want to turn the tables, Richard. I want to know more. I know Dan a little bit, but what about you? What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Sitting down and chatting with you right now makes me happy. I've been looking forward to this. As I said, I've enjoyed the book very much. Getting to know you through the book and getting to know you today, this absolutely makes me happy. So thank you for this.
Thank you.
My next question.
Okay.
What's the most overused word in your vocabulary?
In my vocabulary, I have to think about that. I'm sure I have them. If my wife were here, she could point them out.
Okay.
But the most overused word I hear in business is strategic. Everything's strategic. No, you have one or two strategies. Everything else is tactical after that.
Mm-hmm.
So your strategy in sports can't be my strategy is to score more points than the other team. That's not a strategy. You need a plan to achieve that. So, but in business, it's strategy. There's too many people that are strategic. It sounds better, right? I'm a strategic thinker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Strategy is more important than tactics, and you need strategy. Once your strategy is set down, then you got to execute it. So I think in business, it's strategy and strategic.
Wow. And what deflates your self-esteem the fastest?
Geez, it's like a psychology thing here. So, what deflates? I don't know. I would have said I'd be different now. I mean, if you can't enjoy life at my age, I mean, just you're laid back, you're more mellow. You're not on the treadmill anymore. Commuting to New York City, which is a job by itself. If you're not accepting of things about just about anything, so my pet peeve is going back to your gun, not just guns. It's America's a violent culture.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what your background is. I don't care if it's Italian, German, Irish, African, American. You go to those home countries, they don't break out in barroom brawls as a fine of a hat. They don't do that. We do it here.
Mm-hmm.
I sit there and see people, I won't say every day, and I live in a pretty low, pace area, as Dan knows, that are going to cut people off in traffic. I'm going, where are you going? What are you doing? Not only do I say it's excessive risk because you're only going to be one car ahead of me, I never lose my temper in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some bad thoughts about the other person sometimes in the car.
And that's okay.
I think we're just too violent a place. I think we need to get back to thinking like, if I had one book I wanted people in high school to read, it'd be, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, whatever it is. There could be another book that's even better than that, but just learn to deal with people. And the data has shown that it pays to be nice to people. Not because it's the right thing to do. You make a lot more money if people like you. So you're a very likable guy. So after the show is done, I'm going to say I like Richard a lot. I'm going to talk to Dan. Hey, Dan, is there any way you think I can help Richard? I don't know if I can. No, it's true.
Oh,
I don't know if I can help you, but you're the kind of guy that people want to help. And so I say, I'd like you to be a nice person because it's a noble thing. But if you can't get over that, just do it, but be genuine because you'll make more money.
Wow.
People like doing business with people they like.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. In what situation did you most rely on your parents?
Oh, that's easy. I had education and book reading. I was reading Alan Drury's Advise and Consent.
Wow.
It's a thick book. I think I was no more than 10. And I didn't know I was a whacked out kid. I thought all the people at home with their parents reading this stuff. Now, in retrospect, it was kind of abnormal, but I'm glad they just instilled that in all our children that, education is really important. Not just doing well in school for school's sake, but also just reading and thinking. Now, I like to read all the time, and I'm not getting tested on it. You read all the time. You read more than I do, most likely. Mm-hmm. And you're doing it, because that's instilled in you. That's how you learn from other people. And I want to thank you for having me on because I'm not your typical guest.
No, but I mean, I don't know that I like to expand my borders and, and I don't want to have a quote unquote typical guest.
Okay.
I mean, I love this. In what area of your life are you the neediest?
Wow. I should prepare for this interview more. I thought it was going to be about the book and things. The neediest.
I've just got a few more.
No. I think I don't really have the same ego that I did. So you could say something, you wouldn't, but a person could say something to me that's nasty. And back in the day, I might retort right away. Mm-hmm. Kind of the old schoolyard, I am not, you are. But nowadays, I would sit there and go, that says more about the person speaking those words than it does about me.
Thank you.
So it's hard for me to worry about that. And again, the key to my happiness and the key to longevity, based on a Harvard study, it's not the marriage, it's social things as you get older. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in a really good relationship in a different phase of our lives with my wife. I have somebody, and that makes it all, worthwhile. So we hope the best for our children, of course. You're always a parent. You're always in charge that now they're revenue producing on their own and they're not as energy depleting, but they're not expensive.
That's great.
That's what makes it work, is the friends around you. I think I'd rather have a smaller group of close friends than a lot of acquaintances that don't really know me and I don't really know them.
I agree.
Personal choice for me.
And we're very fortunate in that department.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, is there anyone's life that you've ever, whose luck have you ever envied as far as a life, or has there ever been anyone whose life you've envied?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's total. Luck is when you win the lottery, okay? Most other things, there's an element of luck and there's value. I don't care if you're a rap star, you're a basketball star, athlete, or you're Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. I say they may have gotten a lucky break along the way, mm-hmm. but they most people in the only time that I would say a person's lucky is when their grandparents made a lot of money and I know people like this. I like it, but hey, they're staying on a $200 million trust fund and, they're slotting into home. They started 10 feet from home plate. So I don't begrudge them. Mm-hmm. I kind of wish, well, that must be really nice. That would have been nice. I'm a big believer in that. You can aspire to what you want, but in order to get there, you have to be realistic where you are now. So it's a GPS system. I'm here now. I want to get there. Mm-hmm. What am I willing to do to get there and to where I want to be? And exactly. Yeah. And if you're willing to work for it, you'll probably get there.
Mm-hmm. And is there any question that you avoid the most?
No, I don't avoid questions. If people ask me an inappropriate question, I'm trying to think of an example. I will give them an inappropriate response. What do I mean by that? If someone's prying and probing and doing something in public in front of people, well, how much do you make? I will say, that's not an appropriate question. Or if someone just pushes you, I'll say, that's the one. There's two occasions when it's okay to lie. One is if someone's probing you, you just lie. No, everything's great. Everything's perfect. I mean, it's not perfect. And the other time you lie, it's accepted, is in a business negotiation. If I say, Richard, give me your best price. You're going to give me your best price or you're not going to give me your best price. But if you didn't give me your best price, but you said you were, mm-hmm. that's kind of fair in business. It's not, it's the only time that we're fibbing is mm-hmm. even expected and allowable. But outside of that, I believe you can be a truth teller without being offensive. Mm-hmm. You can tell people the truth without being offensive. That's the main thing. People say I'm a truth teller. Well, you're telling me you're going to be rude right now? You're giving me advance notice? Or are you going to say something that you really believe in and you're going to kind of put it in a velvet glove kind of thing so it's a soft landing. So, yeah.
And I've got one last question for you. How are you, when and where and how are you most critical of yourself?
Oh, that's easy. I try not to do this, but on a rare occasion, if I phrase something the wrong way or someone could take it the wrong way, I go, oh, Mike, you should have not, not said anything, or you should have rephrased it a different way so no one could possibly misinterpret it. Can't think of the last time I said anything intentional to annoy somebody, but I could say something that, oh, I think they took this the wrong way. I probably should have said it that way. That to me, and I'll apologize right off the bat if I do that.
Well, Michael, I am so glad that you said yes to doing this interview. The book is incredible. Never Be Wrong Again. And like I said, you're never wrong. So great answers.
It is. By the way, you asked before, I have a website. I think now, I used to have it on Angelo Costa. You could do that. And it probably comes up, though, as thedecisionexpert.com.
Yes.
But
yeah.
I post blogs there and other things there. So if people want to see that.
And I will be putting that information in the body of the information on YouTube. Don't go anywhere for a moment. I just want to thank everyone for being here today. You know, you could have been anywhere else for the last hour. And the fact that you chose to be here, I don't take for granted. So thank you for being here. If this is your first time here, I hope that you will subscribe to Richard Skipper Celebrates. If you don't mind, leave a comment, hit the like button, share this with your friends. It's all about building that audience. So please take a moment not only to check off this show, but to check out the other interviews that I've done.
Yeah.
I've done over 300 interviews.
They're all very good.
More coming up. So check them out. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. I don't want to get down and sad for a moment, but I do want to take a moment. Sarah Dash, who was one of the original founders of LaBelle, dear friend of mine, I was scheduled to interview her next Thursday, and she died suddenly yesterday. None of us are promised tomorrow. None of us know what the next hour holds. So take a moment to reach out to those people who matter in your life. I always end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list and go to the third name that pops up and reach out with a phone call. Let that person know what they mean in your life, not with an email, not with a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. Let that person know what they mean. Better yet, go to Amazon.com, buy 2 copies of this book. Keep one for yourself and send one to the third friend on your list. They'll thank you for this. And I, you know, as a dear friend of mine says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat.
Yeah.
And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure that you bring a skipper along. So, Michael, I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything that you want to say about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you want to put out to anyone who's watching right now. I thank you for the gifts that you've given to the world and that you're going to continue to give. Thank you for all that you do. And I hope that we will stay in touch. Thank you for being here.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You've got the final word.
Oh, I got the final word. Okay. I'd like us as a community, I mean that broadly, in the United States and the world, be less polarized. Someone can come to a different conclusion. It doesn't mean they're stupid. So we have to be more accepting of people's views. I think we're more polarized now than ever. And don't let that road rage thing kick in, not just in road rage, but in social and political discussions as well, where I've seen it the most. So please, may all your decisions be great ones, and can you get the life you want and richly deserve? Thank you.